everyone, it's Sarah, Painter Creator. A few people have been asking me to talk about some skies and some sky techniques. So I'm going to do a little mini series of videos looking at skies. So I'm working just on an A5 size piece of paper, which is basically half of my Creative Peak for each of these little mini paintings. I'm still using my Cotman watercolour set, which I really enjoy, with one or two additions along the way, but that's the main set, and I'm trying to use things that are colours that are sort of available to us all, and the important thing really is to just give it a go and have fun and enjoy it. So I'm going to paint a nice bright summer's day, big billowy clouds onto this one, and I've just put a very faint mark for some foreground. It's just a guide for today. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of yellow ochre. You could use raw sienna, and lots of water, and I'm just putting that into what will be my clouds, and lightening some of that horizon. So as you can see, it's quite translucent, quite transparent. And then I'm just going to add some very watery cerulean blue into the mix, and I'm just going to leave some cloud shapes. So I'm working wet on dry, so dry paper, and I'm just building up some idea of some clouds on this lovely summer's day. And skies tend to be darker at the top and lighter at the bottom, and in watercolour, in order to lighten a colour, we just use a bit more water. And remember, your paint will dry roughly 10 to 20% lighter. I've just wet my brush, and I'm just going to scrunch up some paper towel, and I'm just going to lift out some of those wispier clouds along the way. Nice way of just getting that idea of billowing clouds. And for this sort of sky, you need to work quite quickly. I'm just going to go back in a little bit more cerulean blue and a touch of red light for a bit of a sort of greyer tinge to some of those clouds. Soften away with a damp brush, and lift up and smooth away as you want. And that's a really simple way of doing a sky. And when you're working with skies, try not to overthink it. Try not to worry too much about the shape of the clouds or anything else. They just come together and look much more natural when you just put some little bits of colour into there. So I'm just going to finish this one off with a little bit of Hooker's Green and Cerulean Blue mixed in. This is Hooker's Green Dark and some Cerulean Blue. It's really nice. Foreground. Just going to add a little bit of yellow ochre in here. And a bit more blue. A bit more water. Touch more yellow ochre. So really simple foreground, which clearly says this is some grass or rolling hills. We can always get our little card and we can scratch on some foreground grasses. Just to build the foreground in. We can go back with that later, and we can just get a bit more Hooker's Green and maybe a little bit of sap green together in this palette. I'm just going to paint on some trees. I'm going to drop a little bit of Gambo's yellow in for the bright side of this tree. Ultramarine just to darken it. Nice way of darkening a green without losing the vibrancy. I'm just going to get my little rigger brush, pick up some nice burnt umber and just drop in a couple of branches and trunks, and then I'm just going to, while it's soft, I'm just dropping in a little bit of a fence line. I'm just going to get a little bit of Payne's grey. Oops, a daisy. And I forgot to take the excess off on my paper towel, but it's not worth worrying about. Just darkening those fence posts and the shadow side of some of these trunks and branches. Got a blob here. I don't know how I got a blob, but we're going to make it into a bird. And I like how that soft tones just come. And just some nice grasses in this foreground. So I just added a little bit of ultramarine blue into the mix. I'll probably add a little bit more. Maybe some more distant trees over here. Just going back into the distance so that you've got a sense of distance on some of the painting. And they don't need trunks. So I'm just gradually adding a little bit more ultramarine blue into the mix. I'm just going to redo some of these grasses. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of Payne's grey in. So really straightforward, very simple summery day. And I can see a little bit of blue here, so I'm just going to pick up some ultramarine and a little bit of cerulean blue, because that's what's in my, and maybe a touch of red light just to darken it a little bit. There we go. I'm going to make this a little pond. And this one's just out of my imagination on a nice summer's day. I'm just going to pause it and dry it, and then I'm going to do the last little bits. So I'm back with you. So this is now dry. You can tell it's dry because it's near enough flat. So I'm just going to add a little bit of burnt sienna and burnt umber into this mix of the greens and that blue, just to put a few more sort of more defined rushes on the painting. So blue always brings sends things further back, and warmer colours like browns and reds tend to bring things nearer the front. I'm just going to put some little brown rushes and reeds through this foreground just to harmonise it with that lake area. And I'm also, same mixture, I'm just going to strengthen some of this trunk and tree definition. I'm probably going to go back into that in a little while. I'm just going to pick up some sap green off my palette, and I'm just going to put some more leaves on here just to bring this one tree a little bit more forward, because I added these into the background. Adds a nice little bit of texture and difference of leaves. And I'm just trying to make sure that I don't put as much detail on this one, so that you know that that one's the more important one with the bird next to it. And I'm just going to go over this fence again. Drop a little bit of Payne's grey in the mix. That's better. And then just going to get maybe a couple of people, one head, two heads. I think I'm going to have one with a bright red rucksack on the back. Always control with just touching, so this is just Payne's grey. Well, maybe it's not a rucksack, maybe it's some clothes, but who knows? Doesn't matter, does it? Just put a little bit more Payne's grey on his legs. Looks a bit sort of joined together. Remembering that the sun's coming from this right hand side, I'm just going to lift up some shadows with a damp brush. Sometimes you have to just work at it a little bit. And then I'm just going to use some Payne's grey to just drop a darker edge along there. So the last thing to do is to just pop a little nice shadow. I'm using some Purple Lake. A gentle, gentle shadow. And I'm just going to drop a gentle shadow down here. There we are, very, very simple but effective little summer's day. And this is the sky. So the sky was cerulean blue, yellow ochre, really, really watery, and just a little bit of cerulean blue and light red for the shadows. And it's just got that nice airy feel. So hope you give it a go. Enjoy.